Welcome to Sidebar Cafe, and welcome to Women's History Month, just one more day. I see people are already, this is what I love about the people who come to our webinars is very interactive. I don't know, Denise and Maria, if you can see, people are already chatting.
Yes. How cool is that?
Yeah, it's before I even said, like, say hello to everybody. So here's what I want to do. If you're new to a webinar with LEAP, you will not know, we are very interactive. And I know a lot of you are on virtual Zoom or Google Meets a lot. So we try to make this interactive. So if you could do me a favor, although some of you are already doing it, I love it. If you could put in the chat where are you right now? And by that, I don't mean like in your living room. I mean your city, and your state, and why are you here? How did you get here? How did you learn about us? And I see, oh my goodness, I see so many LEAP fellows. Okay, let's see. I'm looking for, is anyone from out of state? Oh my God, this is going so fast. Okay, do we have out of state? We have, Bakersfield.
Oh my God, they're
San Francisco.
Everywhere. How neat is this?
Oh my God, this is awesome. Okay.
Yeah. I saw DC.
Oakland, Berkeley, Temecula. Oh, very cool.
I want to see someone from out of state. We always have people from out of state.
There was a DC.
So,
did you see?
Oh no, there's DC. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, good. All right. So this is what we're going to do tonight. We're going to hear from Maria and Denise, who are amazing. I've known both of them for many years, and it doesn't even matter how many years. It's a lot. But we're doing something special tonight because Janet and Rosie are two LEAP fellows, and they are going to get their feet wet in interviewing. And I don't know, maybe in the future you guys could do a podcast or something. So we'll go ahead, Rosie and Janet, we'll have you introduce yourselves later. And then Sarah, so if you want to go off camera or stay on, that's okay. Sarah is our program coordinator, so she is going to be very important later on because we're doing we're giving away prizes. So here are the two prizes, and you have to really listen. So Maria and Denise have been kind enough. Oh, thanks, Carla. You like the earrings? They're a little bit big, but thank you. So Denise and Maria have been nice enough to volunteer to do a 15-minute informational interview with two of you. So one will get an informational interview with Maria, and one will get one with Denise. So, which is really cool, and you should be really excited. But here's how you're going to win. You're going to need to answer a question in the chat, and whoever answers the question correctly will win. And the questions will be about either Maria or Denise. And we're not going to give this away until a little bit later on. So it's really kind of a bribe for you to stay on for most of the webinar. All right. So does that make sense? Any questions? Oh my gosh, there's so much chat going on. I love it. Okay, so I am Cindy Lopez. I'm the founder of LEAP, Legal Education Access Pipeline. I started, middle and ended my career at the Attorney General's office. Most of my career, I prosecuted doctors. And in 2019, I was able to retire. I retired very young, and I started LEAP. We are a diversity pipeline program. We help underrepresented students get into law school. We've been, I don't know, kind of successful. We've had close to 100% acceptance rate to law schools. I don't know. I think that's okay. Hopefully we'll continue it with cohort 3, and we're now in our fourth cohort. I saw there was a question from someone, how do you become a LEAP fellow? So we are going to be accepting applications for the 5th cohort. I can't even believe I'm saying this, and we just started our 4th on September 1st. So please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, because you will definitely hear about the application process. Every year it gets more and more competitive, which is on the one hand good. On the other hand, it stinks because I have to say no to so many amazing, amazing applicants. I can't even tell you. Sarah this year helped me, and she was reading the applications going, okay, this one's going to get in. How are you going to say no to people? And I don't know how to do it. I kind of just throw darts, and then whoever lands, that's what I feel like doing. I'm kidding. So let me introduce Denise. So Denise is the founder and principal trial attorney at Gastelum Law, where her civil rights practice focuses primarily on police shootings, in custody death cases, sexual abuse, wrongful death, and she represents plaintiffs in state and federal court throughout the state of California. And she was previously a defense attorney where she specialized in public entity defense. Denise is a past president. By the way, these bios are long. I am not going to read everything because then 45 minutes later it'd be like, okay, we're done now. Denise is past president of the Mexican American Bar Association, or MABA, Latino Lawyers Bar Association, or LABA. She's the current president of the California La Raza Lawyers Association. Oh my God, she's on a million different boards of directors. Let's just say there's a whole bunch. She graduated from my alma mater, Loyola Law School. She recognized by a lot of different people, Hispanic National Bar Association. She's been recognized as being top 40, under 40. I mean, look, I have, oh, you can't see. I have a whole page. All right, so that's Denise. Oh, and I've known Denise since she was in law school because she was a recipient of a scholarship that I have at Loyola. So I knew a superstar when I met one, and I am so not surprised by how successful she's become.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Yeah, Maria is OG. She's OG in the Latino lawyer community. Well, I shouldn't say that because now we went to the same law school and we went together. She is a first-gen graduate of the California State at Cal State Dominguez Hills. She is a principal with the law firm of Lathrop and Villa in Rolling Hills Estates, which she and her husband co-founded in 1992. They have a state and federal appellate practice. And again, there's so much on here. So I'm going to just give you a little piece. Maria currently serves as the chair of the California State Dominguez Hills Philanthropic Foundation Board, and I know she's very proud of that. She and her husband endowed a scholarship at Loyola, which provides annual financial support to deserving Latino law students. I did not know this. Maria was the first Hispanic attorney to be elected to the State Bar Board of Governors, in 1999. It's pretty amazing that it was 1999.
Yes.
She is a founder and member of Latino Lawyers Bar Association. She is, just like Denise, a former president of MABA. She's a founding board member of the nationally recognized Loyola Immigrant Justice Clinic. She also has served on a gazillion different boards. Oh my gosh, she has so many awards. Excuse me. She's the recipient of the American Bar Association Difference Maker Award, Trailblazer Award, Loyola Alumni Award. Oh my gosh, again, a lot. She was born in Tijuana, Mexico. She immigrated here at the age of 2. She's the eldest of 7 daughters. Did not know that. And she is also a proud mother. Not of a dog, of a son. Because when people say their moms, they're like, oh, I'm a dog mom. No, I'm a human being.
I'm a dog mom.
Okay. All right. Well, see, now I sound like a jerk. Yeah, I'm a dog mom. So there's their amazing backgrounds. So let me just start with a fun question. Not that they're not going to be fun. So Denise, I'm going to start with you. And you didn't know I was going to ask you this.
All right.
Tell us something about you that we would not know from looking on your LinkedIn, looking on your law firm bio, like something fun, not related to law.
I am a killer cumbia merengue salsa dancer, which arguably you might have like known about me if you actually go through my Instagram pages, but certainly not my bio. So that's my fun fact.
That's a good fun fact.
Then
I
again,
like
I'm
it.
also Latina, so it kind of like comes with the
Okay, but
card
you
here.
said, wait, it's merengue and what else? Did you say cumbia?
Cumbia.
Cumbia salsa.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so Maria, what is your fun fact?
My fun fact is that I used to have a little sideline business in high school and college, baking and decorating cakes for birthdays, showers, and weddings and quinceañeras.
Wait, so you did that like as a side business?
Mhm.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's cool. I love that. Okay, so let's start with, everyone heard your bio, but Denise, how did you get to where you are now, which is being, having your own law firm, which by the way, for everybody is huge because you've been in practice for how long?
About 12 years. Yep.
And you went out, it's been a year now, right? Or is it 2 years?
Yeah, it's been 15 months in the making, but who's counting?
Right.
Yeah.
No one named Denise. So how did you get there? What made you decide to go out on your own?
Sure. So, well, basically, let's see here. I started my career obviously in law school. Let's just focus in on law school. I worked for Johnny Cochran's firm, and that's where I gained my interest in doing police brutality, jail death cases, police shootings, etc. I then strategically decided to take a job working for the Sheriff's Department, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department under Baca and Tanaka. So I was really busy. For those of you who probably don't know a lot about the LA County Sheriff's Department, both of those gentlemen are actually in prison right now. So I'm sure you all could imagine just how busy I was as a defense attorney. So I did that for about 3 years. It was as a state boot camp doing, 100-hour weeks at a mid-sized defense firm. Then I got recruited by Arnaldo Casillas. And I'm not sure, if anybody here who knows civil rights, a lot of, police brutality, jail misconduct type cases, he actually is very well known in that field. So he actually recruited me to join his firm. And I was with him for about 7 years. There too, doing 100-hour weeks. Literally, I had cases up and down the state of California, San Francisco, Sonoma, Santa Rosa, Half Moon Bay, clearly LAPD, LA sheriffs, etc. And, Cindy mentioned this, that I was president of MABA and then president of Latino Lawyers, and I'm the current president of California La Raza. So I feel like I already have something in me that's very much the captain of your own ship, mentality. I was the president of my sorority at UCLA. So I think the writing was on the wall for my former boss that ultimately one day I would hang my shingle. So that's kind of, how I started my own law firm. So I started it in January of last year. I want to say I gave 6 months notice, which people joke with me. I'm like on the record of the most notice that you will ever give an employer regarding going out on your own. But that's how much deep love and respect I had for the fella. And yeah, and 15 months later, here I am. I have about 40 cases or so, and they're all police shootings, jail death cases, a few PI cases here and there. But as I always say to folks, mentees, for example, Selena, who I think is here with us this evening, is if you really are the captain of your own ship, you just have to believe in yourself and just take that leap of faith, right?
Really quick, someone said that they can't see us. Can you guys see us now? Can someone just say yes better? Okay. I was trying to pin, but all right. Apparently that was not working. Sorry, Denise.
No worries.
So like Denise, Maria is also at her own firm, but Maria you've been at your own firm almost your whole career, right?
Pretty much. I think about 5 years or so, and not. So my trajectory was not linear. I started out in that Century City clerking for about 6 months, or working for 6 months at an immigration firm doing amnesty law cases. And then I ended up in Central Texas for almost 3 years. My husband, who Cindy mentioned, my law school classmate, we met 1983, our first year of law school. Going to celebrate our 35th anniversary in a couple of weeks, going to Napa. But he had this commitment to the JAG Court, Judge Advocate General, the military attorney for the Army. And that's where he was stationed. He couldn't move, so I moved to Central Texas. And it was very different life from the bubble in Southern California. And I had a hard time finding a job. It was not considered hireable because I was from California and I was a woman, so double strikes. And I finally was hired by the biggest firm there for attorney firm, and it was very interesting, very balanced life, which is not realistic by any other city standards. I practiced municipal law, representing a bunch of small cities in the area, going to city council meetings, issuing advisory memos on regulations and other actions that the city council wanted to take. Did personal injury, which I really had not expected to ever do in my career, but I did. And I enjoyed it during that time. That was the other part of what the firm practiced. And a little bit of consumer litigation and one appeal, one civil appeal. And then when Steve decided not to stay in the Army, thank goodness, and we moved back to California, back to Los Angeles area, and brought it back to Redondo Beach, actually, where I grew up. And then I started working for a firm in Mid-Wilshire, doing a little bit of PI, but mostly defense work. A lot of research and writing and appearances on a variety of hearings. And didn't have any trials there, actually, now that I think about it, but I did in Texas. So it was very heady to represent banks, and you feel like a very important person. But I was working all the time, 5.5 days a week at least. Whether I had a trial pending or a summary judgment motion pending, that was just the way the firm operated. It's a small firm, but operated like a large firm. And my husband was at another firm in Century City, working at a mid-sized firm that was the go-to firm for the big firms, actually, whenever they had issues. So we represented some celebrities, tech industry people, big firms, Arthur Anderson, Kaiser. So he was doing very well, but he hated it because he was, just a very small cog in this big system. And he, as a prosecutor in the Army, was used to handling his own cases. So kind of as Nidhi said, we're both go-getters, self-starters, and we just were being stifled at our respective firms. So he was the first one to say, hey, let's start our own firm. And I wasn't sure I wanted to do that because my parents had a manufacturing business when I was growing up, but they started when I was in middle school. So I asked them, are you sure? You don't want to know. I can tell you what it takes to run a business, because if you are going to hang your own shingle, you are starting a business and you better run it as a business. Otherwise, you're not going to make any money. So we went through that, saved money to start our practice, and decided to go for it. And initially, we were doing litigation, civil litigation, primarily business litigation, a lot of contract disputes for mid-sized companies. We did some employment law, both plaintiff and defense, and had a pretty good life. During that time, a colleague suggested we handle court-appointed appeals as a way to get some appellate law skills that would help us in our civil cases, even though they were criminal. And since Steve had been a prosecutor, he was able to get on the panel. And so we kind of did a little of both, civil and criminal appeals, until our son was born. And we decided we needed a little more of a balance. When you're in trial or prepping for trial, it's 24/7 almost. And we handled some cases for the garment industry, which involved a lot of going in on a restraining order overnight, a lot of work overnight to get to whatever courthouse throughout Southern California. And so that was not a very stable lifestyle for a baby, actually, at that point. So we made the decision to just focus on our appellate cases, criminal appeals, and it's been a pretty good life, actually, very balanced for the most part. We can adjust our schedule, and it's been very enjoyable.
Well, we're definitely going to talk about balance a little bit later on. It's funny that you mentioned that. So LEAP is all about, I mean, there's so many things we're about, but one of the main things we're about is mentoring. And I am sure both of you have had amazing mentors in your life. So Denise, can you talk about the role that mentors have played in your life, and maybe talk about one or two that are specifically memorable for you?
Of course. You know, what's so interesting is that obviously Maria Villa is here with us this evening. And Maria, I consider her to be my mamá de la ley. We actually meet, if not more than quarterly. I feel like we meet a little bit more than quarterly. Quarterly at Terranea, we do a spa day, we do Nelson's, any major life event. She's literally like the first person I call, if not the second person after my real mother. So it's actually pretty neat that she's here with me today. Yeah, I mean, you know, I feel like in every round, let's say, whether it was, for example, Johnny Cochran's firm or my former firm or Loyola or UCLA, shoot, even like my presidency at LLBA or MABA, etc. Like I've always selected one individual, and actually, quite frankly, a lot of them is Maria, just in different times in my life, to be a mentor. And I wouldn't even just say mentor, just more so kind of like counsel, right? Someone that you could use as a soundboard, somebody who will take a call at 11 o'clock at night when you're freaking out about XYZ. I do think mentors are obviously important, but I've always said this, and I feel like I've gotten a lot of great feedback when I've said it. Like literally I've gotten emails and text messages like, I'm so glad you said that, because it's such a real fact about mentors that a lot of people don't want to talk about. And clearly that is not the case with Maria. But I want to say, you know, as much as mentors are important in one's life, there's always the caveat, right? And the caveat is this, that you need to make sure that you select folks that are happy with seeing you achieve great things and seeing you, you know, move ahead in your career, aspire to bigger and better things, with the proviso that they don't get ahead of them. Because there are mentors like that, right? Like they're willing to guide you and counsel you and cheer you on. But the second that you have, quote unquote, let's say, surpassed their trajectory, they're just, you know, it's black and white with them now, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important. And I feel like a lot of us don't really talk about that. But that's something that, clearly mentors are important, but apparently I'm more of a Dame Doom as regards to this question. It's just more so watch out for those folks who you believe are your mentors, but the second you surpass them, it's a different story, right? And I think that's always a very honest conversation that everybody needs to have.
Yeah.
But I'm very fortunate because I have Maria in my corner, so it's certainly not the case with me.
Right. No, that's such a good point. And clearly people in the, you know, people who are listening to this are like giving you applause because
Yep.
Yeah, that's totally true. It's so funny. I love
keeping it real, Cindy.
Yeah.
Pardon me? Yeah.
It's keeping it real.
Yeah. That's the only way I know how to do stuff. I love that you and Maria go to your spa days. Someone else just told me that the same place that they go, and they go once a quarter and do their, so I love it. And again, self-care. So Maria, what about you? Who are your mentors, or what kind of role have they played in your life?
I haven't had really any official mentors.
Me too.
I did have recently, I found out what Denise mentioned, a long time, someone that I kind of considered that mentored me throughout, getting me on the model board, actually, when I just, or executive committee position, when I just wanted to dip my toe into the model board. And then a couple of things happened when I when I told her I was going to run for president. She was a little shocked. And then just recently at the mob installation, she seemed a little perturbed, which I thought was very strange. So I'm glad you brought that up, Denise. It's I would never have expected this, especially so many decades later, that to get that, to have that experience, at this point in my career. But different people have helped me in different areas. Fellow attorneys, like when I arrived in Central Texas, to write a book on all the experiences there as a woman, especially, I think just as a woman, not even a woman of color. But another fellow spouse, whose husband was in the JAG Corps, and she helped me through the process of bar associations and things there in Central Texas. My fellow associates, female also, at my former firm here in Mid-Wilshire. A couple of different people, Patty Phillips, who, if you went to Loyola, you know who she is. She was the first woman president of the LA County Bar Association.
That's right. And now is Sam Jessner her daughter?
Yes.
Yes. So for everybody who doesn't know, Sam Jessner is a judge, and she just became the presiding judge for all of LA Superior Court. And it is huge because, if I'm not mistaken, she might be the first woman of color judge in that position, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's so. Maria, you mentioned bar associations. So before I throw this over to Janet and Rosie for them to ask you some questions, you and Denise really are bar queens. And when I say bar, I don't mean, alcohol bar, although whatever. I mean bars, whatever. I'm not judging, believe. Far be it from me to judge people who drink wine. I remember when I was first an attorney, I was absolutely a bar junkie. Now it was before Latina Lawyers was even formed. So I was in LA County Bar and Women Lawyers Association. I was a coach for mock trial for Fairfax High School. So I was for like 12 years, I was just very, very involved. And as a result of those 12 years, it was very time consuming. A lot of the networking I did then has paid off for LEAP, because I know so many people, and I know Denise and Maria, you're the same way. We all know so many lawyers in the Southern California area. And we talk a lot to our LEAP fellows about networking and the importance. And I know some people probably roll their eyes. It is imperative that you start networking now. And for those of you who are in LEAP, or even if you're not in LEAP, whatever, if you're at college or you're out of college and you're in organizations, it is so important to network and to be authentic, right? And to be kind. Don't be a jerk, because especially in the law field, that could come and bite you in the ass. So Denise, tell us why you have felt it important to be involved in these associations. Oh, you're on mute.
Okay. So I'm always asked this question because Loyola typically has me at their orientation. And then one time I had a talking to, because I was brutally honest. I was like, hey man, if you want me to come back to orientation, this is exactly what I'm going to tell them every single time.
Good.
So, and again, the whole like bar queen, thing, I feel like I literally owe my career to bar associations, truly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, when I started law school, and not to get morbid, but I think it's very important because I do see a lot of people of color here, students of color, women of color, etc., in attendance. And I think these are just facts that we have to live with, and just, familial responsibilities are very important for us, right? So 10 months before I started law school, my father passed away, right?
Oh my
And
gosh,
when
I'm
I
so
was,
sorry.
thank you. But, ultimately what that meant was when I started law school, I had to work 35 hours a week, my first year and my second year and my third year, right? And I even remember the dean having to talk with me like, oh, well, Ms. Gastelum, we've noticed that. And mind you, I was still getting like B's and A's. A's for, constitutional law, criminal procedure, where it really kind of mattered. But ultimately I had a talking to, because they noticed that I was always going like in and out of class, or I'd show up to class late, etc. And I was like, well, I'm working. like, well, the ABA doesn't allow students to work more than 20 hours a week. And I'm like, well, are you going to help my mom pay for the mortgage? Like, are you going to help me have food on my mom's table? Like, where in the ABA is there a footnote about like familial responsibility, right? And obviously there is none. But having said that, I always knew that I wasn't going to be able to do law review or moot court or the trial team, etc., because I had to go to class and then go to work, right? And because of that, and I've said this during orientation, they're like, stop saying that word. I'm like, well, I'm a hustler. Hey, they invite me back every single year, so I'm good. The point is that my first year, I went to a MABA event. Actually, the MABA event was held at Loyola Law School, literally like an evening at Loyola. And there was this amazing trial attorney. He did criminal defense work, which I wasn't really interested in. I always knew I was civil rights, like social justice geared. But anyway, I walked up to him when he was done. His name is Felipe Plasencia. He actually passed away, unfortunately, 3 years ago in a plane crash, actually. And I was like, hey, Felipe, like, I think you're amazing. I want to be a trial attorney. I'm very social justice geared, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, can you hire me? And he was like, you know what? I've never, at that time it was like 20 years, something like that. Like, I've never hired a law clerk before, but like, you're super ballsy. And you just walked up to me and asked for a job, and I'm going to hire you. And sure enough, hired me. And I was with him for about a year or so. And then we were driving once, and he was like, hey, I know you don't want to do criminal defense. What do you want to do? I was like, police brutality, jail work cases, etc. He's like, where would you love to work at? I was like, Johnny Cochran's firm. And he literally picked up the phone. We were driving, and he called Brian Dunn, which is the managing partner at the Cochran firm. And he's like, hey, yo, what's up, Brian? Like, they were literally buddies. And he's like, I have a law clerk. Her name's Denise. And her dream is to work with you. Will you hire her? And sure enough, Brian Dunn at Johnny Cochran's firm hired me. So I was there for about 2 years. And then when I strategically went to the other side, the defense side, the only reason why I was hired by the defense side, according to the managing partner at that public entity defense firm, was because I had previously worked at Johnny Cochran's firm, right? So they thought, oh, great, she's coming in with that intel. Obviously, fast forward 5 years thereafter, you then have Arnoldo Casillas, an amazing Latino civil rights attorney who has set records regarding police shootings and jail death cases, specifically recruiting me from that public entity defense firm because A, he wanted a Latina, but obviously, strategically also wanted that intel. And I feel like it all goes back to that one Mexican American Bar Association event that I attended at Loyola Law, right? So it's very circular. And then Edith Castañeda, who's also a Latina Lawyers Bar Association past president and one of my best friends, has always said that, like, I literally would be like, hey, Edith, there's an LLBA event tonight, or hey, Edith, there's a MABA event on Saturday. And I would force her to now go to class to go with me, right? Because I always knew that it wasn't going to be law review or top 10% at law school that would get me to where I want to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
No, and that is so, that's so my story too. Not necessarily law review. Mine was, I was moot court, and not necessarily the top of the class, but really good experience. And the thing that you all should have heard just now when Denise was talking is, one of the things I said about you and Maria is you're both chingonas. I mean, you really are.
Yeah.
And it takes, really, it takes a lot of chutzpah to go up. You're a law
It's a great
student.
word.
I know. I'm good. I'm going to use all the different slang I know. But you're a law student, and you're going up to lawyers and saying, I want a job and I want to work in Cochran's firm. I mean, that is ballsy.
Super not PC, but it is what it is, right?
Men do it. They do it
right?
every freaking day.
Unapologetically, they do it.
And unapologetically, and even if they don't have the qualifications. Yes. No offense. except the men on
Yeah.
here.
Mhm.
You guys are excluded. I'm realizing Women's History Month. Okay, Maria,
Yes.
same question. Like, why have you continued to stay active? Because you've been practicing a while. Denise is just starting her practice. You've been out there for a while. So why are you continuing to stay in bar activities?
So over 30 years now with our firm, just went over 30. I started bar associations in Central Texas, getting involved because the partner of my firm said attorneys should be out in the community. You should be giving back. You should be volunteering, and here's a place to start. It was not as warm and receptive as MABA at the time, but the Bell County Bar Association. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed giving back. I enjoyed speaking to seniors and speaking at career days and doing what we could, to help the local community there. So when came back to LA, my former firm just working all the time. So that was something that we did not do. So during those over 2 years, no bar associations, no other extracurricular activities, as it were. And when Steve and I started our own firm, that was one of the things that I thought was important for networking purposes. Go to MABA meeting, LA County bar meetings. We were in Redondo Beach at the time, our firm. So we joined the local South Bay Bar Association and South Bay Women's Bar. I joined. Always been wanting to help, bring up the numbers for women, especially Latinas in the profession. So one way I thought to do that is to be involved with the women's bar associations. And I just enjoyed it. Learned a lot, made a lot of friends. And it's kind of put me on the path through MABA then to meet some wonderful women, other chingonas, Elsa Leiva, Yvonne Flores. Elsa's past president of Latina Lawyers, Yvonne past president of MABA, and they're both fellow co-founders of Latina Lawyers. So so it became family, it became more than just, professional relationships. We got some cases through all that, but that kind of was even not the benefit, the lasting benefit from being involved in associations. Let's see what else. And so being involved there as a leader in the executive committee of MABA, got involved with the County Bar and the Multicultural Bar Alliance. And I met bar leaders from the Korean bar, the Japanese bar, so PABA, KABA, JABA, SCALA, all the acronyms for these other bar associations in the area. And there were some really good people involved at the time in the leadership of those bars. And we just became friends, and the friendships continued. Some of them, like Ann Park, is the first Asian woman or male, actually, of the LA County Bar Association. She's president this year. And when I found out she was running and it was a contested election, I was like, hey, what do you need? I reached out. I hadn't, Cindy remembers, and Denise, my reaching out on that. She was being targeted. She went to Harvard, undergrad, Harvard Law, works with big firms. If she had been a white male, nobody would have questioned her credentials or her ability to lead the association. But I think she was targeted because of her race and gender. And so, rallied the troops. And having that relationship from back in 1998, 99, the late 90s, helped her. And she didn't ask me. I saw it and I volunteered. And that was the kind of people those are the kind of people that are usually involved in bar associations that want to help. Support not just their bar association, but the other rest of communities in LA and the profession. We're trying to do good for our profession. Right, exactly. And we could, I'm realizing since Maria, you're a founder of Latina Lawyers, we could do a whole webinar on how that came about, but we will not do that. So let me bring on Rosie and Janet. So, and Rosie, why don't you each introduce yourselves? Just give a little bit about your background.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Rosie Rios. I am incoming 1L student at Berkeley Law. And I was in cohort 3 with LEAP.
And Janet?
Hi everyone, my name is Denise Gomez. My pronouns are she and they. I'm currently a 1L at Stanford Law School, and I was part of LEAP's second cohort.
So Rosie, why don't we have you start?
Yeah, so you have both lived amazing lives as attorneys. And I think one of the burning questions, even on the Q&A chat, is, did you always know that you wanted to be an attorney?
No. Maria, go first.
Okay. I was going to be at one point a teacher in high school and early part of college, a CPA, until Costa County became way too boring for me. And I'd always had the ball in the back of my mind. My parents told me later that I had said I was going to be an attorney when I was 4. Loved to argue, stood up for my rights. I grew up in a very traditional Mexican Catholic family, very machista. And so I think I learned to advocate at a very young age for my position and even to the point of, well, what's a boy toy? Girls can wear Levi's too. It seemed like everything was a battle and didn't make sense to me. So I think all that stayed in the back of my mind. But I think what pushed me over to become an attorney and not go into the business world like I was going to and get my MBA was seeing all the injustices my parents suffered in their business and seeing firsthand and how they felt that they didn't have any recourse because if they had been in Mexico, because of their socioeconomic status, they would always be branded that, and they would not be given any relief, any help from their situations. And I remember telling them, here, we're here in the United States, Mom, Dad, here you have rights, here you will be listened to, but they just didn't believe it. Didn't believe it. So that's what led me into going to law school.
Yeah. So I'll go next. I guess going back to UCLA, right? My undergrad, when I was there, I was actually gearing up to be a school psychologist to focus on helping underserved, students of color as it regards to like language barriers, ESL issues, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That was something I was very passionate about. I didn't learn English until I was 7 years old. And when I went to this amazing all-white Asian school, an elementary school, coming from East LA, they literally misdiagnosed just a language barrier with some kind of learning disability. So that's kind of where I had that passion of becoming a school psychologist geared towards helping, language barriers, ESL types of issues. Anyway, so at UCLA, it was my 4th year. I had even taken my GRE, which is basically an exam that you have to take to enroll into master's programs, PhD programs for that type of line of work, right? And the more I guess, became involved with issues with ESL, language barriers, socioeconomic status, gender, race, all of that intersectionality drove me to doing tutoring work at like Inglewood High School or in East LA, etc. And the more I was doing that tutoring work, I was literally out in the community, right? And I'll never forget, I had this one semester in Inglewood High School where I, a 4th year UCLA student, was teaching trigonometry to I would say 15 Latino, immigrant students who had just came from El Salvador, Nicaragua, Mexico, etc. And I was teaching them trigonometry, literally me. And I remember in that one semester, obviously I'll change the names to protect their privacy, but ultimately, let's say, Jose would show up to class very tired and he would always be sleeping. And he would sometimes turn in his homework, sometimes not. And I would just ask him like, hey, like what's going on? He's like, oh, Miss Gastelum, it's because I worked a really late shift last night. And it's kind of like, all right, late shift. I wasn't, I've been working since the age of 15, right? I used to work at Baskin Robbins throughout high school. And sometimes I would have to work till 1 a.m. and then get up at 6 a.m. and go to high school, right? But his answer was, well, I work till 4 a.m. And I was like, well, that doesn't sound right or legal or healthy. And so I started to pry, like, okay, 4 a.m. Where? A factory. Okay, so how are they paying you? Oh, they pay me cash. How much are they paying you? $4 an hour, sometimes three. Sometimes it just kind of depends. And those were obviously, as anybody would recognize, exploitation of migrants and child labor, right? So that was very upsetting to me. And it kind of shook my foundation, if you will, right? Fast forward literally 3 weeks later, that exact same semester, teaching these students trigonometry that I frankly had no business doing. I mean, I was good at it, but I had no business doing as an undergrad without a teaching credential, right? Asking, well, let's say Jorge, he didn't come to class for like a couple weeks, right? And he was the best student in that class. He was so bright, so sharp. And then when he showed up, finally, I was like, hey, what's going on? Why haven't you showed up? Like, you're not going to pass this class, buddy. He's like, oh, my brother got killed. And I was like, who did he get killed by? By the police. They shot him in the back. They mistook him for XYZ. And, we've just been grieving, etc. And I remember meeting with his parents and just finding out like how horrendous that police shooting was. It was just completely and utterly unjustified. It was borderline murder, right? Just the facts. I mean, you shouldn't be shooting people in the back if you're a police officer. Anyway, and I remember like literally when I was done talking to him and learning the facts, I called my best friend, and like to this day, we always kind of talk about this. At my wedding, she was my maid of honor, and part of her speech was this, event in my life, major event in my life that she participated in, right? And I called her. I was like, hey, Pantea, like I got to talk to you. Let's meet in the middle of the UCLA campus. Sure enough, we met. I was like, Pantea, I'm going to go to law school. She was like, what? Like you just took GRE, like the GRE for PhD programs for school psychology. Like what? You're going to law school? And I was like, well, ultimately I've given this a lot of thought. And I think that a law degree is really the backbone that I need to make the type of change that I need to make in my community. Right. So this is kind of a real roundabout way, but ultimately it was my 4th year. I was a 5th year at UCLA. It was my 4th year at UCLA when I realized that I wanted to go to law school, right? And I think there's a few folks who are in college right now. And I mean, obviously you're here because you are aspiring to be a lawyer. But the point is that, things could always change, right? And kind of follow your heart. Yeah, so that's my story.
I have to I'm sorry. First of all, Denise, that's such a great story.
Yeah.
I had this on mute, and all of a sudden I could hear over my house a bunch of planes, and I'm realizing it is opening day for the Dodgers, and I literally just heard the Jets go over my house. They're on their way to Dodger Stadium. And I was hoping, I'm glad I had it on mute because you guys would not have heard Denise's great story. By the way, I hope a lot of you are Dodger fans. I don't know how great this season's going to be. The Leap Fellows know I am a huge sports fan. I love the Dodgers. And so they're going to be starting pretty soon. So I hope it's a good season. All right, Janet.
Yes, and I just wanted to add, like, I'm sure all the individuals and community you've helped are so grateful that your paths have led you to here and to be lawyers. And kind of going along the lines of just like advocacy, I think something that even as a law student right now is still on my mind constantly is when you are interested in pursuing public interest and civil rights and immigrants' rights and just advocacy in general, a big fear that you have to really encounter is burnout. And I was just wondering what recommendations and how has your journey, both of your journeys have been sort of navigating, avoiding burnout and just practicing self-care, even when you deal with cases that are so haunting and can be so draining, not just for the clients, but also for the lawyer themselves.
Maria, do you want to answer that?
I thought Denise wanted to go first. Do you want to go first?
I think she was pointing to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not, I'm not as good as some at the self-care. Yes, some cases are haunting. That's a good word to use on the appellate side. You know, representing banks and all that, there weren't those kind of fact patterns, but representing capital appellants, it is haunting because you see the injustices firsthand. You see that some of these mostly men didn't have a shot at having any kind of a good life from the minute they were born, and how the various systems and social services that are supposed to be in place to help them had failed them. So it is difficult. It's good to talk to other attorneys that practice in your area to kind of vent a little bit and talk about those kind of fact patterns. There's now trauma lawyering taught in law school, which would have been fantastic to help you navigate that. As a 1L, I volunteered with legal aid to do intake because of my Spanish skills. And I was not prepared for the level of need that was out there. I grew up in Redondo Beach, very much white community growing up, just a smattering of Latino families. I didn't see an Asian family until I got to middle school, and I didn't see a Black family until I got to high school. So it was just, very, very white and isolated. But going to Tijuana, where my maternal side of the family is at, on a monthly basis, if not more, helped me stay kind of grounded with family and all, and seeing another side. But seeing the clients that the need and their help was very daunting, actually, and a little overwhelming as a 1L student. And I remember one time there was a woman who was brilliant, you could tell, but she had some sort of mental health issue. And I was trying to get to the facts out as to what she needed particular help with. And my supervisor saw, probably the look on my face, of a little bit of fear, mostly of being overwhelmed, and how am I going to help this person, feeling that I had to help this person and not knowing how, and came in and kind of, I'll handle this one. Why don't you go sit down and get some water first before moving on to another client. So the trauma lawyering, I think, that's taught now would be very helpful for those situations in providing direct services to clients that are in dire need and have other social issues involved. But getting a massage, oh my gosh, that's heaven. And that's, with the pandemic, that's something that I missed, and that I definitely notice a difference now. That's something that I had a comadre, a friend who I met through MABA, so even though she was not an attorney, that would call me and say, come on, let's go get a massage, different places throughout LA and Glen Ivy and other places like that, just to get away and decompress, or get together with girlfriends. I have a group of moms after I had my son, that extra juggle to do, and that our boys became best friends in preschool. And so we'd say, okay, let's go mom's night out. We went to Napa one time on the trip. So all of that gets you away from the environment and the stresses of the practice, because it is stressful, whether you're doing some litigation or criminal appeals, it is stressful to decompress. So one thing that Steve and I did when we founded our firm, we would take a long 3-day getaway somewhere every other week, if possible, if we weren't in trial or preparing for a trial, and at least a 1-week trip every quarter, plus just to get away from the office, get away from cases. And this was before cell phones. We haven't been able to do that since COVID. So, but that's been a firm and family practice.
Yeah. On the subject of traveling, and I tell this to the fellows all the time, and I anytime I meet young lawyers or young law students, at least for me, vacation is very, very important. And I worked for the government my whole career, and my supervisors knew that I had to take time off. And if I didn't take time off, they're not going to want to be around me because that would not be fun. So early on, even in law school, I would really advise all of you, whatever your self-care is. So self-care for one person is going to be going and getting a massage. For someone else, it's meditation. For me, it's going on vacation. But you really need to start doing that at an early age, and do not let your supervisors discourage you from doing that. You need to be a happy, full, like your cup needs to be full so that you can fill other people's cups, because that's all you're doing as a lawyer, right? Especially if you're going to go into social justice. So it has to be a priority, and it is not selfish. Do not let anyone tell you that. Maria, you also mentioned trauma-informed lawyering. I don't know if, Janet, I think in your cohort, did we have someone come and do a webinar on that? We need to do that again. It is so important, and I don't understand why every law school does not require that for every single law student. Because, for instance, I prosecuted doctors. I had a specialty in sexual misconduct cases. So I was dealing with women, and sometimes men, but mostly women, who were sexually assaulted by their doctors. If I would have had a trauma-informed lawyering class, I think I would have been a better interviewer. I mean, I think I was good enough anyway, but it just would have been better. It doesn't matter if you're a prosecutor, a public defender, if you're in private practice, public, you're going to be dealing with trauma with your clients. And so it would just be, I don't understand. If I was a dean of a law school, other than making legal writing a requirement every year, I would absolutely make a trauma-informed lawyering class. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Denise, what do you do for self-care? I'm sorry, Janet, I don't want to take over. Sorry.
No, you're good. I mean, I'm really big on vacationing as well, taking trips. I will say though that as many trips, because y'all could go on my IG, you're like, damn, this girl traveled a lot. What you don't see on IG is all the times that I'm working, but some people, it's different schools of thought. Some folks are like, when you're on vacation, you should just really log off and turn off your phone and turn off your emails. And I'm like, well, if I own a business and I'm an attorney, that's legal malpractice. Actually, it is, right? Technically. But, for example, like in the airport, I'm always working. When we're getting shuttled, to and from the excursions, I'm always working. Usually in the mornings, I'll work like 3 hours, while everybody's asleep, but it's okay because working and looking at the beautiful Hawaii ocean is not the worst office view ever, right? I literally just went to Sun Valley, which is a ski resort snowboarding type of a village. And I was asked to speak there by a legal conference. And Saturday was my only free day. But when I say free day, that meant that I woke up at 3:30 in the morning to work so that 8:30 in the morning I could hit the slopes. But again, like that's first world problems, right? Now I'm a little TMI, but this is another beautiful example of work-life balance, or at least the way that I manage it. Monday, I woke up at 4 a.m. to work a few hours. And then I met one of my good girlfriends at the spa the days, literally for spa day at 10 a.m. From 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., as we like to say, the Mexicans, andaba de cabrona at the day spa with my good girlfriend from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., right? And then at 4 p.m. to 11 p.m., I was working. But how bad is that? I mean, you just kind of balance. That's literally, truly the definition of work-life balance. So that's kind of how I do it.
First of all, I love that spa. I keep hearing spa from you and Maria. I love it. All right, Rosie, before you get to ask your next question, we are going to do our first question for a prize. So this is going to be for an informational interview with Maria. Okay, so here's how this is going to work. I need you to put the answer in the chat. And Sarah, when whoever is first, so I'm not going to be looking, because what happens is you guys will start writing really fast. So Sarah, you'll have to see who's first. Whoever wins, and by the way, good luck. Whoever wins, I need you to send your email just to the host and the panelists. You don't have to put it to everybody unless you don't care. But if you're kind of private, email us your email so that Maria can get in contact with you. Okay? So is everybody ready? All right. Repeat. Okay. I haven't asked a question yet, but the rules are whatever the answer is, whatever you think it is, put it in the chat. Let's do, okay? So whoever answers the correct answer first will get a 15-minute informational interview with Maria. All right? Ready? Okay, Sarah, I hope you're ready to look at who gets first. So where did Maria live after she graduated from law school? Oh my gosh, okay. All right.
Andy.
Was he first? Let me see. Was
Yeah,
Andy first?
On the chat.
On the chat?
Yeah.
Very good.
Let's see. All right. Let me see. Was it Andy Lee? Look at you, Andy Lee. So Andy Lee is a fellow in our second cohort. All right. So Andy, I have your email, so I will make sure that Maria gets it. All right. Rosie, we'll have you ask another question.
Yeah. So what kind of words of advice would you give your younger self, or really just any other young Latinas who are joining us today?
So I'll go as in regards to that. This is also where I get in trouble when I'm on panels or orientations, or just like, oh my God, did she really just say that? I did. I'm really big on a couple of things. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of the whole like Superwoman pose, like the Wonder Woman pose. There's actually a lot of like psychological studies behind that. As it regards to like literally going in front of a mirror and like literally like Superwoman, right? Like hands to hips and just staring at yourself in that power pose for like 10 seconds. It's supposed to do something with your psyche to kind of empower you. I'm really big on that. I do that before major oral arguments, before almost every single deposition. I do it clearly before every day of trial. I will do that in the mirror, right? I'm also really big on self-affirmations in the mirror every morning when I wake up, and I have like my little chongo and I'm about to wash my face and brush my teeth. I may or may not tell myself that I'm a bad bitch in the mirror. I may or may not tell myself eres imparable, which means you're unstoppable, right? In Spanish, the translation is you're unstoppable. And I think those are little tricks that I do just to kind of get myself going, infuse myself with necessary power that I need to get me through a day, right? Obviously, we work long nights, we work a lot of hours. You need those affirmations. And I'm certainly not above, admitting all of these things. And obviously, you could see why orientation panels are just like, oh, why did you say that? I don't care. Hey, it's worked, right? Yeah. It's worked.
Denise, you've known me long enough to know that there is nothing that you can say on something related here with LEAP that is going to offend me or most of the people on here. We talk about authenticity. You got to be authentic. I love it. I love the Superwoman pose. I love the affirmations. So if someone is saying to you, I can't believe you said that. Yeah. We're recording, but I was going to say something, but whatever. I love that.
Yeah.
Follow that, Maria.
Yeah, I really have. Actually, affirmations were not a thing when I was in law school and starting my career, but I would do something along those lines. And every time before a depo or a hearing or an argument, go to the bathroom, look in the mirror and say, you got this, it's showtime. And then all the stress, all whatever I was feeling, just went away. I'm ready, I'm on, let's go. So that's my trick that I learned along the way to do to calm those any jitters or fears or concerns. Prepared, I know it, I got it. I wish I would have done that in law school. That would have helped a lot for sure.
Yeah, before the bar.
before the bar, before finals, before
Yeah.
the first day of class, before the LSAT, any of the above. Any of the above,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. All right. I'm trying to think. So I'm going to give the audience a choice. We can either have Rosie and Janet ask one more question each, and then we're going to do the Denise Prize, or we can. I can look. Let me look at some of the questions.
While you're looking, can I have a follow-up comment on
Absolutely.
Vacations and bar associations, and why you should join bar associations. The Mexican American Bar Association has an annual trip somewhere abroad. And in the 90s, it was always to some resort in Mexico, where you could kind of park on the beach for a while. And if you wanted to do extra excursions, you could. But that was a lot of fun for Steve and I to do back then. And I met that friend that I told you about, that ended up being our son's godmother on that trip. And she was not an attorney, she was a spouse. And so much fun, really relaxing, and you get away with people that know what you do, that know what you're doing and can relate, and don't give you a hard time if you have to, check on a case or work or do something like that. Whereas some of our non-attorney friends, when we've gone on vacation, it's like, what are you doing that for? You're supposed to be, no one's going to give you a hard time if you pull out a depot to review in a route to go to one of the islands.
They're usually sleeping, right?
It's funny. I have not been on one of those trips because they always seem to conflict with stuff. And now that I'm retired, I feel like I need to go on one. I've heard a lot of chisme about those trips. Well, that's for Maria. That's for you and Denise and I afterwards. Seriously, no.
That's
yes,
seriously.
Very interesting trips, some of them.
Okay. Let me see who just asked. So Janet, we'll have you ask a question.
Yeah, and just a quick little side note for anyone who is a law student, bar associations are free for us. And a lot of times there's also great sources for not just for networking, but also scholarships. So I would also recommend for any potential law students, but it's an added bonus. And kind of along those lines of for current advice for current law students, I think one question that's been on my mind, and as I've mentioned, as I'm someone who is pursuing public interest, is given the recent rulings by the court, particularly looking at Dobbs and looking at Bruin, what role should lawyers come to play during these times, especially those interested in public interest?
Only a Stanford law student would ask something so greatly academic. I love it.
I mean, I feel like ultimately just push the envelope. A lot of my cases, I face qualified immunity, right? And that's specific to civil rights cases, police shootings, etc. But I'm always of the opinion that when I feel like something's unjustified, even though, for example, the Ninth Circuit might not agree with me, I'm just going to push it and obviously depose the shooter, get him to say XYZ, and try to see if I could change the law as regards to, an edged weapon, 6 feet away type of a case law. So I'm certainly not afraid of that. I mean, Maria, you're an appellate attorney, right? You push the envelope. That's by definition.
You have to push the envelope, and the hope is that down the line in a different court, or you might be able to change the justice's mind, which is very, very rare. But that in the future, the laws would change because of, you get the dissent that's going to come out of this decision because you changed one justice's mind on the not affirming the lower court below. So that's one way. The other is to get involved with bar associations and like for Dobbs, women lawyers, California women lawyers. I served on both those boards once upon a time. And they have amicus brief committees that you could help and do research for and work on even as a student. But we have to keep pushing the envelope. I mean, I think certain people, especially Latinas that are attorneys, we push the envelope or we wouldn't be where we are. It's just,
I feel like a lot of my historic settlements have been on cases where people are like, oh my God, you're so going to get qualified immune. Like, that's such a loser case. And I'm always kind of like, hold my beer. right? And literally, not only do I establish liability, but I get historic settlements against like the rogue counties, right? The Wild Wild West counties.
Yes.
So
Hold my beer. Okay.
truly, right?
Rosie, did you want to ask another question?
Yeah, I can. I was looking here at the chat and just wanted to highlight a few of the questions. I know that there's been a few questions about LSAT prep tips. So just any words of wisdom for students who are currently studying for the LSAT and preparing for that.
None from me because I took the LSAT cold. I had no guidance. I went to my guidance counselor at Cal State Dominguez Hills, and I said, I want to become an attorney, what I have to do. He hands me the envelope to take the LSAT, which is how it was done back then, pre-internet days. And I applied, via mail, got the packet. The night before, I started looking at it, and then I thought, oh my God, I'm not prepared for this. But I didn't know there were courses or a book or anything. So I'm in line to take the exam the next morning, and this white guy turns to me and says, "Oh, did you take the free class for minorities at UCLA to prepare for the LSAT?" I said, "I didn't know there were any classes, let alone any free classes, so no." And I credit my fourth grade teacher, Miss Hensler, and I got to thank her actually about this. She taught us how to do those logic puzzles that are on the LSAT back in fourth grade. And so it came back to me, fortunately, how she taught us to do it. And I think I got a decent score on the LSAT because of her.
That is crazy. Denise, any tips?
I would say unequivocally take a course, right? Why would you try to get yourself in the best possible position to get the best possible score for the LSAT? Having said that, I took my LSAT 2 weeks after my father passed away, right? So as I'm sure you all could imagine, my LSAT score wasn't the highest. It wasn't bad at all. I mean, it just wasn't what I know I could have landed. It was average. But at the end of the day, I feel like just try your best and just try to be the full package, right? You're talking GPA, you're talking, all of your extracurriculars, your community service, your personal statement, etc. And I will literally review anybody's personal statement and edit it, almost write it for you all, just to make sure that there's a little bit of a balancing. I did a lot of work for an organization called forpeopleofcolor.org. I would encourage you all to sign up. It's free. Free consultation work, which is literally the exact same thing that all the other privileged kids get, right? To get into Stanford and Harvard, etc. Anyway, sign up. It's forpeopleofcolor.org, and literally it's free consultation services just to kind of get you all up to speed as regards to like your personal statements, your LSATs, everything else. So I'd encourage you to do that.
So for those of you that are still in college, join your pre-law societies. They usually have practice exams, or they get raffles to have a free LSAT prep course. So admissions fees, scholarships, all those things.
Oh my God. I didn't even pay her to say that. That's awesome. Yeah, we could do a whole thing just on LSAT prep, and we're recording, so I will not tell everybody what I think of the LSAT, but all the LEAP fellows know. What we're going to do now is we're going to do the question for the informational interview with Denise. So again, for those who don't remember, whatever you think the answer is, just put it quickly in the chat. So Sarah, hopefully you're ready. And Andy, you cannot answer because you're already doing an interview with Maria. All right. He's probably booing me. Okay. So is everybody ready? No, Andy, you cannot win for someone else. That's so Andy though. That is so typical.
That's
so nice.
funny.
Okay. Everybody ready? Oh my God. Now they're having an Andy love fest. So what bar event does Denise credit for jumpstarting her career?
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh,
That's a
good.
good question.
I literally
Oh,
did not
who won?
even,
Lizette Arroyo, she won.
I literally did not even finish it. Lizette, that was impressive. Okay.
It was an easy question, Cindy.
No, it was impressive how like quickly she did that. So Lizette, I don't know you, but can you send your email privately just to the hosts and panelists, and then I will forward it to Denise. So thank you guys for playing. That was fun, huh? It made you all listen and stay till the end. Although you stayed till the end because Maria and Denise are so freaking phenomenal, right? I said on our social media, come listen to two rock stars, and I was not
thank you.
exaggerating, right? Rosie, and the reason why I'm finishing now, I'm trying to be mindful of people's time. Rosie and Janet, thank you for your audition to do some other interviews in the future. I think I'm going to do this from now on. I think I'm going to have Leap Fellows because you guys ask great questions. And look at, oh my God, we're getting so many great responses. I hope you all enjoyed this. So the idea is we're supposed to have a webinar every other month. When I first decided to do Sidebar Cafe, by the way, Sidebar Cafe is a registered trademark. Thank you very much. Taylor Tiemann, one of our LEAP mentors, was my attorney, and she helped me with that. So don't even try to think of stealing it unless you want to pay me a whole lot of money, and that would be great. But we're going to, I wanted to have one every month, and then I don't know what drug I was on when I thought about that. So then I said every other month. Our next one, I hope it's in April, but if it's not, it's going to be in May. And I'm realizing we're recording and I just said some really dumb stuff. The next one is going to be on judicial externships. And I'm very excited about it because students of color do not know about judicial externships. I can tell you, I didn't. I didn't until after law school. They are very prestigious. A lot of privileged students do it, and we need to have more students of color. And actually, our friend Janet is going to be doing one this summer through MABA's judicial externship program. And so is Pablo, who I don't think he's on here, but he's a LEAP fellow and he goes to Berkeley. So it's very exciting, but my mission every year is to try to get as many first-gen students of color to learn about these judicial externships. So watch out for that, get on our social media. And let me see, we still have, look at this, we still have like a lot of people still on here. So thank you everyone for coming.